Please listen carefully.
Hello and welcome to the Film Review Podcast, episode number 7. This week brought to you by Audible. I'm your host, Zach Hamilton. Our guest for today's episode is Walking Dead actor Jeremy Palko, but first, let's get into some industry news. Disney is now looking to 28 Weeks Later director Juan Carlos Fresnadillo to direct the live-action remake of The Sword and Stone. Disney has had this project in development since 2015, with Game of Thrones writer Brian Cogman attached to write the script. Moving forward, SAG-AFTRA President Gabriel Carteris and National Executive Director David White sent out a message to the SAG-AFTRA National Board with regards to developing a code of conduct to address sexual harassment. In the message, Carteris and White stated the following: "It will provide clear safety guidance to performers in the work environment and social environments attached to work where harassment frequently occurs." In response to questions they had been receiving about the SAG-AFTRA's response to harassment and inequity within the industry, they added, "We welcome the attention and are thrilled with the forceful initiatives now underway to eradicate this terrible disease that is pervasive in our society and industry." In somewhat related news, Mark Wahlberg has decided to donate $1.5 million from his All the Money in the World reshoot salary to the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund after news broke that he had earned nearly 1,500 times more than his co-star Michelle Williams. In a statement released to the press this past Saturday, Wahlberg had this to say: "Over the last few days, my reshoot fee for All the Money in the World has become an important topic of conversation. I 100% support the fight for fair pay, and I am donating the $1.5 million to the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund in Michelle Williams' name." His agency, William Morris Endeavor, also added, "In recognition of the pay discrepancy on All the Money in the World reshoots, WME is donating an additional $500,000 to the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund in Michelle Williams' name, following our $1 million pledge to the organization earlier this month. It's crucial that this conversation continues within our community, and we are committed to being a part of the solution." Sony's Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle topped the weekend box office for the third consecutive week, beating new release movies such as 12 Strong and Den of Thieves with $20 million from 3,700 North American locations. This has been a surprise hit to many, including myself. With a production budget of only $90 million, the film has gone on to earn $767.8 million in worldwide box office ticket sales to date. Lastly, some television news. The Walking Dead's Norman Reedus has voiced his opinion on, spoiler, Carl Grimes' death on the show. He told Entertainment Weekly that he was desperately unhappy about the decision. Reedus went on to say, "I've seen Chandler grow up from a little boy. I've known that kid so long, and it always hurts when you lose a family member on the show. Chandler is definitely a family member to me. I was not happy about it. I always thought Chandler would be the last man standing, to be honest." Moving on to some trailer drops. The Super Troopers 2 trailer premiered last Friday, delighting many fans of the cult classic. The film will focus on a border dispute that arises between the US and Canada. The Super Troopers will be tasked with establishing a highway patrol station in the disputed area. The trailer definitely highlights many of the hijinks fans loved of the original, with a new, slightly more Canadian twist. The film will be releasing in theaters on April 20th. Lastly, there is indeed a Heathers remake on the horizon. It will be a TV series set to release March 7th on the Paramount Network. The series will be set in present day and retell the original 1988 American black comedy film's plot. Not so fun fact for Paramount, the Heathers trailer has received 24,000 dislikes on YouTube as of Sunday, giving the trailer a 77% disapproval rating. This may be illustrating the fact that many television and film fans are fed up with the Hollywood remake trend. Hopefully, the show will perform better than the trailer. We are going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we have actor Jeremy Palko joining us. Jeremy has played numerous parts in such television shows as The Vampire Diaries, Burn Notice, The Middle, and Sleepy Hollow. Most recently, Jeremy can be found on the Emmy-nominated show Bloodline as Nicholas Widmark and Andy on AMC's The Walking Dead. So stay tuned and we'll be right back. Alright guys and gals, are you like me and want something more than music to listen to during your morning commute? Maybe you want to start reading more, but don't have the time to sit down and open a book. Well, for people on the go, there's Audible. Audible offers over 180,000 audiobooks to listen to on your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. I personally love listening to a book while I'm in the studio. I get to catch up on my books and be productive at the same time. This week, Audible is giving Film Revered podcast listeners a slammin' deal. Go to audibletrial.com/FRpodcast for a free 30-day trial and, more importantly, get a free audiobook on us. Now would be the perfect time to listen to Ernest Cline's Ready Player One and prepare yourself for the film. Once again, go to audibletrial.com/FRpodcast for a free 30-day trial and free audiobook. That's audibletrial.com/FRpodcast. Thanks again to Audible for their support, and thank you, listeners. Now back to the show. Well, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So you've had quite a career over the years, and having been involved in a number of hit television shows, the one I think most people will definitely recognize you, at least recently, would be from AMC's The Walking Dead. Were you a fan of the show before you were cast?
I absolutely was a fan before I was cast, because I actually read for the pilot, like the very first episode, and I'd read probably about 4 or 5 times over the next couple of years for various parts in the show. I mean, it was labeled the untitled zombie show, but everyone knew it was The Walking Dead. So yeah, by the time I read for Andy, I didn't even know it was Andy. It was like Alex in the script or something like that. I just kind of, I would read, submit, and then just forget about it. And then one day I got the call that I actually booked it. So I kind of freaked out a little bit.
That is crazy. So this has been a long time coming then. So
yeah, I mean, it's a long but patient journey. You don't really set out for like, oh, I want this show. You just kind of, as an actor, you just read for, parts that come your way that you would want to play, and hopefully everything works out.
Definitely. Yeah. So how exactly did you hear about it? Did you hear about it through your agent or?
Yeah, my agent down in Orlando submits me quite often to various projects that come across her desk. And what happens is she gets the breakdown of characters, and then she submits her actors and actresses for parts that, they may fit. And then if the casting wants to take a look at them, then they go to the next step, which is the actual audition process, which can be, going into the audition or taping at at home or at a professional service, and then sending that tape in.
Did you have any idea that the character was going to have such a long arc on the show?
No, not at all. I mean, I really didn't know too much about, the character Andy. I'd done my homework and looked him up in the comics and everything, and he didn't last too long in the comics. So I was kind of expecting my run to be a lot shorter than it was. I never thought I would make it, 3 seasons, but on that show,
yeah,
kind of, if you're not like a main character, if you're not Rick or, Norman or something like that, then you kind of just go week to week and hope your phone doesn't ring with that Scott Gimple call, call of death, which a lot of us got in season 8, which was such a bummer, because we just got to set for the 100th episode, and we were all having a great time. Like Jordan, who plays Eric, and Carlos, and a bunch of other guys and stuff. We're hiking and we're going out to dinner every night, and then the next day everyone's kind of like, "Did you get a call? Did you get a call?" And yeah.
Oh God, that's so nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it was really nerve-wracking. So.
Wow. Now, the show takes place in a post-zombie apocalypse. What was it like being involved in that world?
It was, as an actor, it was fun and easy to get into, because we weren't shooting on green screen, which is, as an actor, you shoot in a studio and you really got to open your imagination. But when you shoot The Walking Dead, you literally shoot out in the middle of nowhere, like in the backwoods of Georgia, and there's no cell service at times. So I'd always leave my phone in my trailer. And I mean, just that alone, you don't realize how quickly you get into character by not having your phone on you. And just sitting out in the backwoods. And I mean, as pampered as a set can be, this was the least of it.
Yeah.
But there was no complaining anywhere on set, because it was an amazing group of people. Yeah, it was kind of fun. It's out in the woods shooting, because it felt like a student film almost. It felt like a low budget indie, not, like one of the biggest shows on TV.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So what was some of your first thoughts running through your head when you finally got to the Hilltop set itself.
Oh man, that was amazing. And first of all, Hilltop, some people don't know, is actually right next to Herschel's farm.
Yeah.
Like if you literally go to the front gate and look to your left, maybe like 100 yards away is Herschel's farm. Like the place is so real. I mean, other than the facade inside the actual house, but everything else outside, man, everything was working. There was like real plants, real food, real, livestock at times, and it was legit. It was a massive set, and it was just so cool to walk into through those gates.
Gosh, yeah. Like I would imagine a set that's that immersive just makes it so much easier as an actor because it's like, all right, a lot of this is, yeah. That's so awesome. So your first scene on the show was this immensely tense moment that started with an attempt on the then Hilltop leader's Gregory's life and ends with you getting your hand and or arm broken after attempting to choke out Abraham and the loss of your character's friend Ethan. What were your initial thoughts when you discovered your first scene would be so action-packed?
You know what? In the script, it didn't seem so action-packed. It just kind of said, like we had dialogue, and it says Ethan, stabs Gregory, and Andy is taken to the ground by Abraham. I mean, that whole sequence was kind of short-lived in the actual script.
Mm-hmm.
I think it said something along the lines of like in one sentence, it said like Andy scraps with Abraham. But on the day of shooting, our stunt coordinator Monty, we kind of choreographed this, like I would, try to pick up Andy Lincoln and try to, and then Michael Cutlitz would come across and tackle me, and Norman would be behind him as backup. And we kind of walked through it maybe like 3 or 4 times. And, we had stunt pads to where we fell on a couple times, but when they called action, I mean, nothing really went to like nothing happened the way it was supposed to. Like,
yeah.
Cutlitz literally lifted me off the ground. And all I had was elbow pads and knee pads, but man, he slammed me to the ground. I mean, like a bull. And
yeah, he's a massive guy. A lot of people, like, obviously he seems bigger than life on the show, but I've actually met him in real life in Vancouver when he was up there filming a pilot for, I believe, ABC at the time. And it's him because he's just a massive guy. So I can only imagine how much power went into that when he put you down.
I remember I was asking Monty at the time. I was just kind of like I've worked in stunts. I don't consider myself a full-on stunt man, but I've had my experience with it. And I was like, so what, are we going like 80% maybe? And Monty just laughed and goes, dude, just hold on. And
oh my God, just hold on.
Cutlitz took me to the ground, and in the script, it was supposed to be me landing on top and choking him out. But it wound up us just old school wrestling match. Like we got to the ground, and thank God I'd wrestled for years.
Right.
I forcefully pulled him over top of me. In fact, I think I pulled a muscle in my rib cage area. I mean, the next day, man, we were black and blue, but it was awesome. It was really cool.
Well, and it's so funny. I love the line is that you guys that you scrap with Abraham, because it ended up being this very big moment for Abraham, for Michael Cutler's character, because he's having these flashbacks, he's thinking about stuff during this whole altercation. So it's interesting to hear just like one sentence in a script. It's funny how that can be.
Well, I got a lot of not so nice tweets the next day.
Oh, I'm sure. Fans take it seriously. They forget sometimes that these are just characters.
Yeah, me attempting to kill Abraham was not taken very well.
Yeah, you definitely came off as not a likable character initially just because of that. Not that you weren't, a likable guy. Yeah, well, and it's great that you touched on the fact that you had done stunts before. I don't think that most of the audience probably knew that about you, but some of your first jobs were doing stunts. I mean, do you think that kind of prepared you for the grueling set of The Walking Dead?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I did a lot of athletics growing up, everything from like soccer to, baseball, wrestling, football, did martial arts for a long time. I just really stayed active as a kid, and I think that's kind of progressed to everything I do now. I mean, I do my very best to stay in somewhat physical shape, but I think one of my first roles, Never Back Down, I played a football player, and I kind of got the role by basically saying I'm going to do my own stunts. And I remember when we were like shooting that, like a lot of the people on set had no idea how to run a football scene. So I was kind of like the stunt choreographer almost. I mean, I wasn't the stunt choreographer. That was a guy named Jonathan Eusebio.
Yeah.
He came to like the actual plays, they're like, what would a running back do? And I'm like, this is what he'd do. Like, what would he say? This is what he'd say. And a lot of the looping and stage stuff, I had to do a lot of the, like, what would all the football players be saying and why would they be saying it? So that definitely helped me out in that role. But, on The Walking Dead, just being physical, I mean, everyone on that set, every actor, every actress is just bona fide badass when it comes to being tough.
Yeah, you have to be. I mean, not only is it just grueling with some of the scenes that you're filming, but also just the weather alone can really, it can break the strongest of people, I would think.
Yeah. It was 50 degrees in the morning, and then it was like 90 degrees by afternoon. So.
Oh my gosh, that's grueling. So you started off not so likable, but I'll tell you, and I think this goes for most of the audience that watches the show, that the scene that definitely won me over took place only in your second episode, and that was when Rick's group and the Hilltop decided to deceive the Saviors with a fake head of Gregory. Yeah. And this, so this leads to a choice between 3 severed heads, and in the end, Jesus explains that the nose may not be quite right. And Rick picks up the head and proceeds to punch it 3 times. And afterwards, he turns towards your character, Andy, and sees kind of like this look of shock. And he just asks you a simple question, what? And your reaction is the reason why I was really upset when you came to a close on the show, because after this point, I really liked your character, because it was like such a, like, I don't know if it came off as funny in the script, but what you said was, the Saviors, they're scary, but they got nothing on you. And it's like, oh my gosh, I laughed out loud when I heard that. When you read that, did you see it as being so funny?
No, I really didn't, and read it as funny, but I think like once, like, it got a few laughs on set, and then I kind of realized, oh my God, it's really dark, because I really didn't know who the Saviors were at that time. I mean, I knew they were like a bad group, but now I know who the Saviors are, and Negan really is. But it's just so funny, like every line that Andrew Lincoln and I had, it always started with the word what. Like,
right.
when he killed Ethan, he was like, what, And then when he first calls me over to ask for Andy's help to take him, on this trip, Andy goes, what? And then that day he looks at me and goes, what? And I remember just having a conversation going, is that all we say to each other? It's like, what?
Oh my gosh. And I love the escalation and moments between what's, right? Like, you lose your best friend because, he's dead, stabs him. And then
that was a great line, yeah.
Then they're going to be like, all right, you're going to help us and put your life in danger. And then it's like, all right, so here's these heads and I'm going to punch one. What?
Which one of them was Johnny Depp, if you didn't know.
Yeah, it was. So that's a hilarious little behind the scenes there.
It's kind of fun.
Did you see that? Like, I guess, you mentioned that you had some angry tweets during your first episode. Did you see the tweets kind of change after that episode aired?
Oh, yeah. I think once I held the head and they realized that, like, okay, he's not a bad guy. He's just, he's doing what he has to do to survive for his community. And at that time, you realize that he's really not a dick. It was just like, new people came into his house, and of course he was going to attack them. So yeah, it kind of lightened up after that, which is nice.
Yeah, exactly. So what would you say was your favorite scene then that you were involved in The Walking Dead?
I think season 8, like that very first day, it was when Maggie, Rick, and King Ezekiel are on top of the truck, and he's like giving that rah-rah speech.
Oh, yeah.
That was like our first day of filming. And usually, like, at least in season 6 and 7, like, you get to set and you'd see the cast list on who was working that day. And it'd be like anywhere between 4 to like maybe 10 people. But that day we had like 50 people. And I remember the first day it started pouring down rain. So we all had to go into a bus, like a school bus. So all of us were in the school bus for like 45 minutes waiting for the weather to change. But I just remember going back. And yeah, it was like that first day of school. We hadn't seen each other in a while. And so that was my favorite scene. Just watching, Andrew Lincoln work and, getting to be with all the guys and girls and just, it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
That is awesome. And it's such a big episode, especially the fact that you were able to be there for the 100 is so awesome. Here you were a fan of the show, and then you get to be there for this momentous moment. So
I
awesome.
remember I got the call not too long after we wrapped the 100th episode that I would be getting killed off in the next episode, which was really heartbreaking because, like, I just got back. Like, we were just starting to feel each other. I mean, we all knew people were going to die, but we're all kind of hoping, you'd make it one more episode. But that was tough when it ended. But, such is life.
Exactly. Yeah, it does suck. I mean, to be fair, there have been characters that have had a lot shorter of a run, so it's great that you
Oh
actually
yeah,
got to spread out across 3
you
seasons.
go on that show to die, basically. So yeah.
Yeah, and as we learned, and again, we're dealing in spoilers there. Obviously, we're talking about Andy, whose character unfortunately did die in the show. But, no one is safe. And as we kind of touched on, in last week's episode is, yeah, unfortunately, even main characters can die, which can lead to people being like, fire the showrunner, which is kind of crazy.
I think I just heard that today, is that they renewed 9, but with a new showrunner.
Yep. Yeah, we actually talked about that. So it's pretty crazy.
Who is
But
the showrunner?
it's going to be Angela Kang, I believe.
Oh, okay. I think she was a writer.
Yeah, she's been on the show for 7 years, so she's been around.
Good for her.
Yeah, exactly. And then Scott M. Gimple is going to be the chief content officer, so he's going to be in charge of the overall Walking Dead franchise, basically on AMC. So he'll be kind of overseeing Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, and then any other brand extensions as well.
Nice.
So yeah, pretty cool. A couple promotions there. So, I mean, obviously we talked about you no longer being on the show. What would you say you're going to miss the most not being on The Walking Dead?
I mean, obviously it's a job, so that's kind of nice, but, man, the people, everybody from from production to, craft service to, to wardrobe, to makeup, to hair, like everybody on that show was just, you hear that word family quite often, and it's exactly what it was. It never, in the beginning it felt like work, and as time went on, the more you got on set, the more it was just like you went there to hang out with everybody, and work. But there's been plenty of sets out there where you show up, you do your work, you go home, and that's it. But this one is such a unique, like, family. Like, everybody knows each other, everybody helps each other, no one's mean to anybody. I remember, like, the first day, like, getting to set, being the new guy, and at lunchtime, it's just one big cafeteria. And it was Lauren Cohen who actually asked me, she's like, hey, why don't you come eat with us? And that was, I didn't take like 2 bites, man. I was so like in shock. I was like eating lunch with all the big guys and stuff. But that's what they do. They take care of everyone on set. And that's what I miss most about it.
Yeah, I love that it's like everyone, there's not like cliques to a degree, you know what I mean? And I can imagine, as you said, how nerve-wracking that'd be your first day. It's like, here, I'm new, these people have been together for years, and now I have to try and, infiltrate this. And it's great that they were very accepting. That's so awesome to hear that.
Yeah, that's kind of what it felt like. It felt like it was your first day at high school, but like all the popular kids were coming up to you and making sure you're okay. And that's kind of what it is. Like, nobody has an ego on that set. And that's something I've said before, and I continue to preach is, because you don't see that. I've been on sets where who the lead actor is, and you don't talk to that person.
Because he'll tell you 6 times. Yeah.
They'll tell you. And you don't mess with their world. You let them do their thing. But in this one, I mean, I remember Andrew Lincoln jumping out of the car because he saw one of the makeup artists walking to set, which was, like 100 yards away. But, her hands were full of makeup stuff. So he got out of the car, gave her his seat, and he walked to set. So, I mean,
that's so awesome.
You don't see that anywhere.
Gosh, yeah. And you hear the stories, right? And you hear how great they are with the fans, because in all honesty, you have to be great with the fans because of the fact that this is such a huge show. We touched on that it is arguably the biggest show on cable. It has been for a while. And so there's a very large audience.
And they're genuine people. They're absolute genuine people, which is great.
So, and speaking on the fans, have you had a chance to go to any conventions since being on The Walking Dead? And if you have, what were some of your experiences?
I've been fortunate enough. Yeah, I've been doing quite a few conventions. I've been all over. I've been to Canada. I've been to England. I've been Rhode Island Comic-Con, one of my favorite cons. Colorado Springs, Lexington, couple in Florida. I mean, they're so amazing. I mean, just chatting with people, and I mean, people don't expect actors to be just normal human beings, which is something, some have a little more egos than others. I'm not gonna lie, but in the grand scheme of things, it's such a personal thing for like fans to come up and talk to people, and I'm such a big fan too. There's plenty of actors I bother at these conventions, but getting to travel, getting to make a little money, and getting to meet just tons and tons of people is just absolutely awesome. and it, reaffirms that you're doing something good in this life,
Exactly, right? Yeah. And it's got to be a feeling of like, it's rewarding. You have these, it's like, okay, people really did like me on the show. This is so awesome, because
Yeah.
that's really the only way you find out is how do the fans feel,
Absolutely.
So,
And it makes it, because all we do is pretend. Like I've always said that, like I love acting and everything, but all we do is pretend. I mean, there's people actually fighting out there for, America, and they're, putting their lives on the line, and we get to pretend for a living. So it's kind of like, it puts it in perspective when somebody wants to come up and, take the time to talk to me or give me a couple bucks and sign a photo, like that is the most humbling experience. And then, it puts a lot of things into perspective, but
yeah, it shows that you do still have an impact.
Yeah. I love doing the cons.
That is awesome. Now, before The Walking Dead, you'd been involved in a myriad of other projects ranging from various television series, a variety of short films, and even a video game. What would you say was one of your favorite projects that you were involved in before The Walking Dead, and why was it so special to you?
Favorite projects. I mean, I feel like every project I've ever done, I've been so excited about. Like every one I do, I feel like is going to be amazing and everything. And I'm trying to think of my favorite. I mean, I love doing. Actually, there's a short film I've been a part of. It's called So Dark. We shot an independent film which was like 10 minutes long called So Pretty, about a vampire on a train who confronts the Twilight fan or something like that. But it was shot really well, produced really well. My friend Carrie Miletto, and so we did a second one, which was about 20 minutes. We named that one So Dark. And then it went on to Amazon Prime, which is still on Amazon Prime, and it won some awards. And now we're in pre-production for part 3. We want to make it a web.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, we want to make it a series. We want to make it 8 of them, I think. And we just got a comic book out, which is cool.
What? That's awesome.
All of this can be on Amazon Prime. Again, it's called So Dark, the series. There's part 1 and part 2. But that was really cool. I play a vampire named Sean, who's 200 years old and basically only kills the bad guys. So he's almost like Dexter, he's a vampire. But I'm really excited about that stuff because we have controlled that from day one. And it's just gritty. It's really gritty. It's not like cartoony at all. So I really like So Dark, the series. But you mentioned video game. I love doing the video games. I recently worked on EA Sports Madden 18. And that's when you get to like do the voiceover stuff.
Oh yeah.
They put all the dots on your face and you wear the camera rig. And I really like that because I think I would love to do like a voiceover, like a DreamWorks or a Pixar type movie. I think that would be so awesome. Nice.
I would definitely watch a movie with you doing the voice. I think that'd be hilarious. So, and as for So Dark, we'll definitely leave a link to that in the link dump so that people can check it out on Amazon Prime.
Yep.
So now I'm sure the listeners would love to know this as well as myself, but was there a specific movie or TV show that really made you decide to be an actor?
I think as a kid, like basically every Spielberg production made me want to be an actor. Like Indiana Jones is like my favorite,
classic.
Actually made me I took archaeology in college because of Indiana Jones. And I realized it was the most boring subject I've ever been a part of. But I think growing up, like I really had this inclination to be an actor, but I never thought I could actually do it for some reason. I'm like, that's impossible. But also there was like a million things I wanted to be as a kid. I wanted to play baseball. I wanted to play football. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a lawyer. And somewhere along the lines, I just figured, if I was an actor, I could attempt to be all of them.
Yeah.
But I think when I was in high school, when I was a total like jock, I played football. I was like vice president of my school. I kept trying to like get into college. Like that's what you had to do. That's what you had to do.
Mm.
But then like movies would come around and I'd be like, oh, I want to do that. And it was weird. Today, somebody posted on my Twitter or Facebook saying like today was 19 years ago. Today is when Varsity Blues came out.
Wow.
And I was like, that was one of the movies that made me want to be an actor. Like, just oddly enough, I get that posted today, and I was like, yep, that was one of the movies. So,
well, and it makes sense. I mean, one of your first roles was playing, like we talked about, like a football player. So,
yeah. Like, I was pretty decent at football. But two knee surgeries will take you out of it. So
Yeah, that definitely will. Well, and speaking of, you being active in sports, something that I, read somewhere was that you're a second degree black belt in Taekwondo and were even the state champion of Washington State twice in fighting. What got you interested in martial arts?
when I was a kid, I was born in LaGrange, Georgia, and I moved to Seattle, actually Puyallup area when I was about 5. And there was a martial arts studio right next to our house, and a friend of a friend got me in, and yeah, I mean, I was like 6 years old and I started training, and then I just kept doing it. I did it till I was about 18 years old, um, and yeah, it was just a lot of fun. I did other sports along the way, but I mean, I guess I like kicking people. It was fun.
Right. Yeah. I was actually involved in Taekwondo myself in the younger years, like in and around high school. And it's one of those interesting things is, again, there's like a certain discipline to it. It's not just going out and kicking people, but
Oh
at the
yeah,
same time, it's like, you mean I get to fight people and I get trophies for this? Like, wait, what is this?
yeah. This was
So
like back in the day where it took us like 12, 13 years to get our black belts. It wasn't like
it
nowadays where
wasn't, yeah.
kids can be a black belt by next week if they pay enough money. But
Oh
no,
God.
you had to be like a white belt, and then you had to like write a paper. You had to do forms. You had to like break boards. Like there was actually called testing, like every like 6 to 8 months, like to get you next
Hmm.
to get the next level. And it took 10 years to get there. So
Yeah, it was actual skill. You'd have to spar against like 3 different people. Or I had a pretty crazy dojo. We had to like stand out in the snow for a certain amount of time, like just really like hardcore discipline,
okay.
barefoot, which is interesting. But yeah, so I missed that. I feel like it is kind of easier nowadays.
Yeah, because someone
Definitely.
was like, "Oh yeah, like my 7-year-old's a black belt." I'm like, When did they start? When they were like 1? I mean, I
Oh,
don't.
it just takes away from it, doesn't it?
It totally does, man. Because I didn't say I wasted a lot of time, but I took a lot of time doing that.
Exactly. Now, I guess, what would you say is the hardest part moving from full contact martial arts to stage combat? I know that you mentioned that sometimes it just is full combat in Walking Dead, at least, but
Oh yeah.
maybe in some other shows.
Um, I mean, not a whole lot. It's just more patient, I guess. I consider like fighting more like dancing in film and television because it's like you have a partner and you choreograph everything, and then you play to the camera obviously to cheat the camera, things like that. So you really got to know what you're doing. Um, there's a couple people out there that tend to do it a little bit more than others, and I've definitely learned along the way. Don't be so antsy about it. The camera will take care of a lot of that, and trust in your stunt choreographer. But it is something that you need to take very seriously because people can get very hurt. So,
Yeah, definitely. So, since wrapping on The Walking Dead, you've been quite busy. Obviously, you mentioned the So Dark series. And I was just wondering, according to your IMDb, you still have about 5 projects you've been involved in since Walking Dead, some carrying over into this year. Are there any other projects that are upcoming that you're really excited about?
I mean, I'm excited because I just moved to Atlanta where everything's really happening, and I've literally been here about a week and a half, and I've had more auditions this week than I've had in like 2 months.
Oh,
In
wow.
Florida, where I used to live, so things are off and running, and I'm meeting with a new agent this week, and yeah, I'm in the middle of a project right now. They kind of got shut down halfway because of I guess some permits or something they didn't get for shooting. But I'm hoping to get back on that one. It's called Devil in Hand, which was so far it's been a great to shoot. But there's like another one on my IMDb that I have no idea what it is. Like somebody tagged me in it, but I'm like, all right, keep it there for now.
Yeah, right. You're like, hey, I mean, it
But
could
I'm
be
like, I have
potential
no
work.
idea what that is. Like I worked on Pitch Perfect last year, um, but that was pretty much just a stunt role.
Yeah.
But originally he had some dialogue to it, and I went to the movies actually to check it out. Um, and yeah, they kept my scene, but they cut my dialogue. But whatever.
What would you say would be a goal that you'd like to see yourself accomplishing within the next couple of years?
Um, I mean, I would definitely like to become a series regular on a show, and as an actor, that's just it's like job security. It's like if you get on a show for more than 5 episodes, then you're considered a series regular.
Yeah.
And then you're steadily working. I think that's kind of just any actor's goal. But that's absolutely my goal, is just to keep working. I mean, after Walking Dead ended, there was kind of a large break in the middle there, just because the season had slowed down. There wasn't a lot going on. The conventions keep you alive and float, to help you pay the bills. But as an actor, you just want to keep working. That's it.
Yeah, you want to work, exactly.
And things like that. I mean, obviously there's some shady things out there, but you get yourself, good people around you, a good agent, good manager, things of that nature, and they help you steer clear of all the BS and help you focus. So that's that's the mission right now. I'm working with a new management team and getting some assistance with new agents. So yeah, just one day at a time.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned being a series regular. Is there a show that's just started or a show that maybe has been on for a while that you'd like to see yourself be a series regular on?
I mean, I don't want to be greedy, but there's some good there's some good stuff out there. But I'm just going to wait for the opportunities to come first before I start, doing some wishful thinking. But Walking Dead is just something I never thought I'd be a part of, and that has definitely changed my life for the better. But now that I've got a taste of, how great, working with those people can be, it's spoiled me in a little bit of a way. So
right.
There's some projects out there that I absolutely want to be a part of. I know the Marvel universe is huge here in Atlanta. I would love to.
Oh yeah.
Would love to get on that as like a decent part, not just like, kind of a one-liner getting burned out, but
yeah.
I'm definitely some on my wish list, but I'm not gonna be too picky.
Yeah, well, I definitely think you've positioned yourself really well in moving to Atlanta, because that is massive right now for production.
Absolutely.
So,
thank you.
well, thanks so much for joining me on the show today, and I really cannot wait to see more of your work, and definitely gonna have to check out that So Dark series. It sounds really interesting, and hopefully that pans out. You guys get that third part going.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate that.
And now it is time for What to Watch. My What to Watch this week is Trey Edward Schultz' It Comes at Night. The film centers around a man who has established a tenuous domestic order with his wife and son within a secure, desolate home as an unnatural threat terrorizes the world. However, a desperate young family arrives seeking refuge and potentially threatens his family's safety. This marks the first studio picture for Schultz, who had seen great success with his short and feature-length independent film Krisha. It Comes at Night stars Joel Edgerton, Christopher Abbott, and Carmen Ejogo, and is currently available to Amazon Prime members. I personally have not seen the film, but I plan to tweet my reaction to the film later this week, so I definitely invite you guys and gals to join me in seeing It Comes at Night. Well, that's the end of episode 7 of the Film Revered podcast. Be sure to show your support for the FR podcast by leaving a review on iTunes, Google Play Music, or wherever you happen to listen to the show. Another great way to show your support is by getting a free audiobook from Audible by going to audibletrial.com/FR podcast. If you enjoy the show and would like to ask a question for the podcast, feel free to email me at filmrevered@gmail.com. Lastly, we have award-winning composer Ariel Marks on the show next week. More info to come later. Thanks again from all of us here at Film Revered. Have a great week.